Hello everyone, this is Enzo Eigen of the Alliance for Loki, and this is a tier list of the best regen champions in the game. And so I love regen, it's my favorite ability, and you can see here in this fight a good example of it. So this is my 5-star rank 5 Deadpool Sig 200, and he always gets regen throughout the entire fight, and it's based on how much power he has on his power meter. The thing about regen champions is that they're just so sustainable. You can just use them forever, you can make mistakes, and you can come back from it. They last long in content and quest and aligned quest, and so there's just this incredible ability, and it's one of my favorite in the game. So watch right here, I eat an SP3 from Hyperion, and it's going to do about 30% damage. I'm down to 70%, and then I take a couple more hits just to make it interesting. But watch my regen. My regen at 3 bars of power is 454 health gain per tick, which is incredible. My health is just going zooming right up. I'm almost to about 93-94%, and I eat another SP3. So this is variant 8. There's no power control, so you're sort of at the mercy of these special attacks. And yeah, I get hit again. Now I'm down to just a little over 50%. And just watch as once again my health comes shooting back up. And this is even with Liquid Courage and Suicides on, which means my health is reduced some, because Liquid Courage gets it down to about 30% less effective than it should be. So absolutely incredible. You can see here we're getting to the end of the fight, and I'm at 100% health, a full bar power. So absolutely amazing. Regen is just so cool, and I love it so much. And so the champions I want to play are champions with strong regen. Those are my favorite champions in the game. So now let's go check out the tier list. So the tier list I made, 1 second, let me get it up. So I made the tier list, and unlike last time, I actually pre-placed all of the champions in the tier list already. So I've made 5 ranks. That's the way I always make my tier lists, and I'm going to go through each different rank and explain why I put the champions in there. So up at the very top, we're going to start with the top. We have tier 1, which is the best regen champions in the game, according to me. And so number 1 is Deadpool. And so Deadpool, as you can see, I've really just started playing him for the variant 8 because he's one of the champions you can use. He's amazing. He just gets so much regen. It's something like 45,000 regen per minute, which is incredible. Always happening all the time. You don't have to do a thing. It's just always slowly feeding you back regen. It's absolutely incredible. The best regen by far, I would say, in the game. A close second is Wolverine. And so Wolverine, I think it's on crits, or maybe it's just on hits. He has a chance to proc regen, and with his awaken ability, he can get a double regen, which just makes his health bar go shooting up. If you add the APOC Horseman synergy, then it's out of control. I mean, you're just getting regen all the time because abilities proc so much more often. After that, Black Widow Clairvoyant. So these first 2 I agree are the best, and then the next ones are, I don't know if I really have them in any exact order, but they're all tier 1. So Black Widow Clairvoyant, she does have to throw an SP2, which is a little bit time consuming to get to, but you can do that over and over again in a fight. Pretty strong regen, but usually you have to throw a couple of these to get it back. But if you have any nodes that give you prowess, or even if you're running suicides, interesting enough, because her regen is based on how much health you steal back. Blade is next. He's amazing. You just have to hold block. And as long as you have power, he exchanges that for regen. A little bit strange that he only has a maximum regen ability of 70%. It's sort of insignificant. I mean, it is, of course, 100% would be nice, but 70% is more than adequate, and sort of a weird max cap on his regen. King Groot has almost regen on all the time once you take damage. I think he, can't remember if he converts the Fury into regen, or when it's on cooldown, but anyway, it's very strong. Can often keep him in a full bar of health, even if he takes a lot of damage. Cosmic Ghost Rider, I sort of debated whether he should be in here or not. It's a judgment. He gets the regen off his heavy. Again, you can use it numerous times in a fight. A little bit complicated because you have to reset the judgments once you use it once, but it's very powerful. If it's your last judgment, then it just stays on forever and gives him lots of health back. Diablo served this new school of regen champions, and so he's immune to poison with his buff, and if you're running suicides, the poison is on him, but I guess he's not immune to it. Well, he is, but he still gets the debuff on him, so he constantly, through the entire fight, gets healing. He also can get a pretty good regen off his SP1 too, and so an absolutely amazing champion with the amount of regen he can get. Omega Red is the last one in here. He's another one of these champions that is suicide friendly with regen. He takes very little damage from bleeds and gets regen, I believe, off his immunity to the poison too. He does from willpower. Plus he has a pretty good SP1 regen and a really good SP3 regen. So you can get lots of health back with him as well. So this top tier, I would say, are champions that can regen multiple times through a fight, and they can often get their regen up to 100% of full bar power if you play them well, and they're just very powerful regen champions. So my second tier are champions that have good regen, that is, you can access numerous times in a fight, but it's not quite as powerful as the first group, or it's sometimes a little bit more challenging to use. So Hyperion, you get regen if you hold block once he has 3 of those little cosmic charges. It's good. It's a really powerful regen. You can access it multiple times. A little slow between refresh. I think there's like a 45-second refresh between regen attempts. So that is a significant amount of time. And so that's what takes him from the first class to the second class. Maybe he deserves to be in the third class, but regen is one of these things where as long as you have significant amount, like I would say you can get back 20 to 50% in a fight, I would say that sort of qualifies you for tier 2. Rogue is another champion, has a really good regen. It's all for SP1. Easy to get to your SP1. You can use it lots of times, and it's directly reflected of the damage you cause with your hits. And since she can crit on those when awakened, you can get some really nice chunks of regen back at a time. Old Man Logan is good because he has regen on basically all the time. It's just a slow trickle, but it's a slow and noticeable amount. Ibom is a lot like Diablo in that he gets regen because of suicides, and he always has the poison on. Actually, I take that back. He always has poisons on him, and if he doesn't have suicides on, it's very good. If he has suicides on, it's not as great. So they intentionally sort of nerfed his willpower healing from the poison. So I think it's 50% less effective. And then if you add Liquid Courage, it's like another 30%. So with suicides on, he always gets regen, and it's okay. You'll get a small amount back consistently over time, which can be a lot. But if you don't have suicides, you can get a lot of health back quickly. Ihulk is a very interesting regen champion. A super strong regen coupled with that mortality. You can use it many times in a fight. Definitely sometimes strange to access, and you have to build up the gamma charges to get it too. So it can be incredibly powerful, but difficult and not always very consistent. Weapon X is much like Old Man Logan, just consistent, nice amounts of regen. Angela is very good. So I can't quite remember the conditions to proc. It's like if she has some purple buff that converts to a healing buff, and you can get that multiple times in a fight. It definitely adds a lot of health back. I wouldn't say it's a huge health gain because, you know, you sort of get it and it tops you off a little bit, like takes you up like 5 or 10% consistently over the whole fight in little increments, but it happens a lot and gives you a lot of health back. Kingpin is exactly like Ibom in that he has a debuff on constantly, or you gain willpower healing. But again, it's nerfed a little bit in his abilities because the developers knew you'd get this back. And that's sort of what separates Diablo as a first tier compared to like Ibom and Kingpin. Wolverine Weapon X is basically very much like Wolverine, except she does not proc it as often, nor does she get the double regen proc. So very strong. I could see putting her in tier 1 because it happens the same way. She just gets it off chances of hits. You can get it very frequently, often they heal you. But since it isn't quite as powerful and it doesn't seem to proc quite as much, I would say she is not quite in the level of tier 1. So now on to tier 3. Tier 3 I'd sort of say are like sort of the bursty regeners. These are champions who get a good burst of regen that's very noticeable. And Ultron is sort of the classic. So at I think it's 50% and 20%, he gets a nice chunk of regen. It's probably around 30% depending on masteries and recovery or so, but it's really good. So he's basically can get up to 60%, 60-70% back up a fight. Nebula has her regen charges, same thing. If you get hit, she can regen all the damage off. I think it's I can't remember, it's like 120% of their base attack. Guillotine is just like Ultron, has a really powerful singular regen of 15%. That's really nice. Same with Iron Man, same with Goldpool. Nick Fury is interesting. So he gets a crazy regen, but only happens once per fight. But he has the unique ability in that he won't die. So all these other champions we've described, if they get 0% health, they die regardless of regen. But Nick Fury actually shrugs off death and is able to regen 30% of his health back. It's 100% first, but then it degrades. But it's pretty incredible, but it only happens once per quest, and so a lot more limited than these other champions. Mephisto has an interesting one as well. It becomes sort of invulnerable, gets some regen back based on the souls. Can be really powerful with 6 souls, but then you have to build up the souls again. And so it's good. It's definitely useful, and he does get the invulnerability too while regenning. I actually forgot to put Phoenix in this list. She and Mephisto, I feel like, are exactly the same. The way their regens work, these big one-time bursts where you get invulnerability with them. And Platinum Poet, I've really not played that much. I think he has sort of a regen that procs with his cards. I don't think he has one at a percent level, but I think it's okay. Maybe he should be in tier 2, but I haven't played with him enough to really figure out his regen. So now we're at the 4th level. So the 4th level, I would say, are regen champions who have a nice, steady stream of accessible regen that does, a nice small amount consistently. So Bishop's a perfect example. He can convert prowesses into regen as he holds block. Morningstar has a very powerful regen, but you have to have 5 missions, and so you either start with 1, 2, or 3, depending on synergies. And then once she gets it, she can definitely top herself off pretty quickly. Depends on how much damage she's doing, but yeah, it can be a really good regen. It just takes a while to access it. Mojo, he gets a nice little small regen when he has 5 followers and he nullifies a buff. He gets a regen. It's definitely noticeable, and he's such a squishy character that the regen is really helpful, and it consistently goes on him too, which is really nice. Sasquatch is one of those champions where as he gets hit, he gets a regen. I guess I could also put Sabretooth here too. I forgot about him as well. Sabretooth, they're very similar. Actually not so great offensively, unless you plan on getting hit a lot, but you're still going to take a lot of damage, but really good defensive abilities. Same too with Mr. Sinister. It's much more defensive, but he heals all the damage from critical hits, which can be a lot over the course of a fight. Old Guillotine is much like Morningstar in the way that she gets a little bit of regen back on hits. I think it's 2% per medium, so it's this nice small amount consistently through the fight. And actually can add up a lot, and she doesn't need to get hit to get it back, so she's, interesting, good sustainability. Scarlet Witch used to have one of the best regens of the game. She would proc her regen often and get the double regen. They nerfed that, and now it seems to rarely proc, but it still can give her a lot of health back, just very, very inconsistent and sort of rare to get. And Magic's a really cool regen champion. So she, of course, gets all the damage she takes back while in limbo. The most interesting use of this is when you have suicides on. So recoil procs, and she's still in limbo, and she regenerates the recoil plus whatever you have for the recovery mastery. So a really cool way to get some nice little bits of regen back throughout the fight. I've seen people, those taters in war once, start off a war fight by getting hit and taken to the SP1 and then regenning all that damage because he was in limbo. It was quite the amazing strategy. And so yeah, she's a very interesting regen champion. So now on the very bottom tier, there's a whole lot of champions in here, and they each are put in here for various reasons. So we have sort of the suicide-friendly champions. So Corvus is immune to bleed, but he still procs it, or I should say 100% bleed resistant. So he gets nice regen from the willpower of that, probably about 10% of his health per fight. Null has good resistance to poison and bleed, just like Hercules, so they get nice resistance again, and willpower gives them some healing back. Mr. Negative has regen with the degen, which is awesome to say, and so if he's ever on a degen node or fighting a degen opponent, he'll get back consistently a fair bit of health on a really challenging debuff, which often affects a lot of champions. Doctor Strange and Sorcerer Supreme are very similar, and they each have a certain type of blessing that gives them regen back. Again, not a whole lot, a little inconsistent to use, but definitely noticeable. Namor, I really debated where to put him. I could see putting him in a lot of these tiers, to be honest. He gets it off suicides because as he hits with suicides, he reflects the damage. So the damage from suicides is gone and he just gained the willpower healing, which is amazing. But again, doesn't happen all that often. And he gets a nice little like 3 to 4% burst for special. Really not quite enough, I think, to put him in one of the upper tiers, but it can be noticeable and maybe deserves to be in tier 4. Cable gets a regen off his power gain. If he crosses the bar power, it's okay. It procs by randomness, and it doesn't give you too much. Same with Man-Things off his specials, it's okay. APOC is another one of those really interesting champions that he gets it as he moves, but not while he's fighting. So I don't really know what I think about that. I mean, it's interesting, not the best. Venom Pool and Venom both get it through various pieces of the utility. Again, just really small amounts, but both consistently get it and very helpful. It definitely keeps him alive and helps him deal with health. There's sort of an interesting class of champions, the Warlock, the Sentinel, and the Dormammu. They all get it off their SB3, and it's just a modest amount, like 5, 10, 20%. Sentinel is the classic example. You have to do your SB3 once, get an armor up buff, and then when you do your SB3 a second time, I think you get up to 20% based on how much health you have left. I mean, yeah, interesting and useful, but a little hard to access. I mean, SB3s take a while to get to, and then it's just not that much. The War Machine and Hulkbuster are a lot like Iron Man, except I don't feel like it's nearly as good. They get little bits of regen when they get below 15%, not nearly as strong as the other Iron people. And same with Punisher 29.9. I can't quite remember, something to do with his battery. Often gets him a little bit of regen, but not that much, but noticeable and a good amount. And finally, Doc Ock. So Doc Ock has one of the most interesting regens. He has to be awakened, and once he puts a heal block on the opponent, if they're regenning, he gets that health. And I've seen incredible videos by Buddy Lee where he just like sucks all the health up and goes from like 20% to 100% almost instantly. But it takes a lot of conditions to get it right in order to do it. And so yeah, it's sort of, I mean, it can be anywhere from 1 to 5 basically, depending on how it works, but I put it in 5 just because it's so inconsistent. And yeah, there you have it. So really the champions I love the best are sort of those 1 and 2. So 1 are just the on-demand, all-the-time regeners, and 2 are champions with really strong regens and sustainability. And so is 3 is nice too, some good burst regens. But as I said, I love regen. To me, that's what I want most in a champion, and yeah, it's amazing. Playing Deadpool in Variant 8 has made me fall in love with him. I hope he comes as a 6-star one day, just because his regen is so amazing, but I can't imagine he will. It's sort of like the reason they keep on saying Wolverine will never be a 6-star, because his regen is just too good. So there you have it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I always like trying to make these interesting tier lists, and let me know. I'm sure I missed some regen champions. There's so many champions with little bits of regen in their kit, and I must have missed a few of them. Or of course, if you think differently about my tier list, tell me your thoughts. I always love reading the comments, and hopefully I'll be making another tier list again shortly. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.